Hey, this is Peter Lee, the director of Angelfish, starring Princess Nokia and Jimmy Stanton. You're listening to So Booking Cool with Jewel B.
Welcome to So Booking Cool. It's Jewel B. I hope you're well and safe. Hope you've been enjoying the holidays. We're going to get ready to head into the new year, which, by the way, how are you feeling about it? Are you looking forward to it? Are you excited? Do you have a list of resolutions that you've put together, or you're still working on it? Do you even believe in resolutions? I have so many questions. Before we meet 2020, this is part 2 of my conversation with filmmaker Peter Lee, the director of the feature film Angelfish, which stars Princess Nokia and Jimmy Stanton. So in part 2, Peter discusses how to make a movie authentic and why he says people should network beyond their industry. So we have all of that and more, and if you did not listen to part 1, make sure you get on that, okay? I also just want to mention that in this interview, I was sick, so that's why my voice sounds like that. Actually, in a good amount of previous interviews that I've been publishing, I've been sick, so you can tell the difference, but I thank you for listening regardless. I really appreciate it. So let's get into it. Peter Lee, part 2 out of 2, only on So Booking Cool.
What are some ways that you do that when you're telling a story? Like, how can you make people connect to it?
A thing that I do with film when I'm making a film, which is that normally there's a script and then there's a treatment, which can be like anywhere up to like 20 pages, a treatment for the movie, which is the description of the entire film. And then what I do is I distill the treatment into a one-page summary. So I know if I had to describe this film in one page, what would it be? And then I distill that one page into one paragraph. And I'm like, that's like incredibly difficult to do because it's this whole 2-hour or 90-minute film, and then you're distilling it down. And then once I've distilled it down into one paragraph, I distill it down again into one line. And I say, what is this film about? What is it supposed to mean in one line? And then I use that one line for the rest of the process. I think to myself, if there's ever a creative decision going on, I ask, and there's ever any kind of doubt over it, I go, is this thing serving that one kind of line that describes what the film is about, right? If the film is a love story about two people falling in love and then figuring out if their love can survive and if they can find a way forward, does everything service that idea? Does everything service that core idea? And if it doesn't, then it can probably go. And if it does, then it absolutely has to stay. And it kind of like focuses the mind on making sure you're always talking about the central point of the film rather than diverting away into like flights of fancy.
Wow, that's also great advice for anyone who aspires to be a filmmaker. Like what you said, like being able to like narrow it down and get straight to the heart of what that story is that you're telling.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much collaboration in the film that I viewed myself as the director as like the protector of the love story, the protector of the romance, the protector of their like relationship and how that guides itself through the movie, right? And with that in mind, if there was other things, if people wanted to bring in other collaborative parts, we wanted to make this scene feel more vibrant, or we wanted to change this character into being more harsh or more light. Like, as long as I was completely open to doing these things and collaborating, as long as I was able to maintain the love story at all times, like it's like this little football under my arm, and I'm trying to make sure that the entire team is getting there. And that was why I was like, keep my focus on the central theme, the central idea, and then build around it, build an amazing team of creative artists around it that can build up the world and create this really, really big thing, which is now what you see, like this hopefully beautiful, authentic, kind of naturalistic film, which was created by a team of artists. Yeah.
How did you decide as well to set the story in 1993?
That was quite important to me. I wanted, so I don't know if you know this, but the film was originally inspired by how my parents met in Dublin in the 1960s.
Yes.
And so it's this kind of classic love story. It's like Romeo and Juliet, West Side Story, apart from like there isn't a like tragic ending as in Romeo and Juliet. You know, there isn't a lot of death at the end as in Romeo and Juliet. But I saw this film that was kind of I saw this story of my parents' love story, and I saw how universal it was, but also the key thing for me was how it's like the classic love story, but it's real. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, two people from two different worlds, opposites attract, but it's a true story. And I often find with these like big hyper-romantic movies, you think, well, that's amazing, but that could never happen to me. You know what I mean? Because it's so idyllic or whatever. And I saw that and I was like, well, no, this is real and this is true. So if I'm going to tell my first film, if I'm going to tell a single story, why didn't I have it be the story that I'm most, because I'm at heart, I'm a romantic also. It's like the story I'm most kind of attached to, both kind of emotionally and personally. So that was the inspiration, that kind of classic love story, but based on these real characters. And then I was like, as I was developing it, I just moved over to New York to find my way in film, and I was kind of falling in love with this city as well. And I was like, well, this city is one of the most romantic cities in the world. And from my perspective, the Bronx is like one of the most passionate, beautiful, like has the most passionate, beautiful people that I've ever met. Like it's people always kind of focus on Manhattan or Brooklyn, but like as far as I'm concerned, the Bronx is where it's at. You know, it's like where, because I'm Irish and we kind of thrive off like passion and joy for life. And if you're looking for passion and joy for life, that's the Bronx all the way to a T. So once we kind of situated it there, I was looking at the story and I was thinking, well, this story exists at a time. This is a bigger story about life, and it exists at a time where the dynamics of relationships are more simplified. So like in Ireland in the 60s, there's like limited access to telephones. Like there wasn't cell phones. There wasn't Facebook. And then I was thinking about this and I was like, well, all these things are critical elements to the love story and to them being able to have the love story that they had. And so I wanted to keep authentic to that. And I didn't want to be thinking, well, if they're having a problem in their relationship, why wouldn't you just call them on a cell phone? You know, why would this happen? Why would this? So I gravitated to that 1993 because I thought this is the perfect era for this kind of story about these two people from two different worlds, both historically for what was happening in the Bronx at the time, but also for how it affected the people and the way they would relate to each other and how their love kind of would navigate through the geography and the technology and the history of the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we know that love is love, but I would like to know, did it start off being like an interracial relationship or having that aspect of the love story, or like how did that come into play?
It was from my perspective. As soon as I said it in New York, it was always going to be that way. Mm-hmm. It was always going to be that way. I agree with you. Like love is love, and I wanted to talk about because one of the great things about New York is how there are so many different cultures, different people, and we all mix and live together and have our own communities and then mingle in our communities and all that kind of thing, and how some of the most amazing things happen in the city. And I think that the diversity and the range of people and cultures here is one of the biggest strengths. And I was like, well, I have to lean into that. I have to lean into that completely because it, especially in the early 90s, that it provides some tension, but it also provides a bigger truth that we can talk about, which is exactly what you said, that love is love.
Mm-hmm. Right. And going back to what you have said about collaboration, Peter, did you have the leads? Like when you're working on a romance, do the leads have to spend a lot of time together in order to make that chemistry so believable on the screen?
I think so. That's an interesting question because like I would have loved to have Jimmy and Princess Nokia in a room for a year, but we're like an indie film, and so that's a slightly different scenario. But we rehearsed with them together for a week, just the two of them talking. The time for them in that rehearsal period was so necessary. But what you could see was from the first day to even just the third day, their connection, they grew as friends, they bonded as friends, we were working together closely, like hours and hours each day to kind of figure out exactly who these people are and why these people love each other, so that when they actually hit the set, that there is this innate, ingrained authenticity to their love story. And it's funny, I think it was the third day or something, like the first day we started out with just having them walk in a like warehouse, basically, this huge empty space, and it was supposed to represent just a kind of walk and talk of them on their first date. And we kind of went over and over and over again, and they played in different things, and that was also part of the process of kind of breaking their perceptions of what they can do. Like, they don't need to follow the script, they can completely improvise, the scene can go for 20 minutes if it needs to, they can do whatever they want. And so there was that. But then on the third day, I remember it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Mm-hmm. There's a scene with Princess Nokia and Jimmy talking as they look out over the water, as they go to Orchard Beach, and they mm-hmm. look out over the water. Yep. And Princess Nokia, as her character Ava, she talks about her family and his family and her relationship with her brother, and how she tells this incredible story about defending her brother, and it's this really beautiful moment. And that was completely improvised on the third day of rehearsal in a room with me, Jimmy, and her. And we recorded it on like a little iPhone. I just asked them to talk about their families, and she completely improvised this thing, and I was like stunned at how beautiful and authentic and kind of exactly the character Ava was. But like, I hadn't written any of this stuff. I'd written, like, she talks about how her cousin calls her brother ugly, and she smacks him or something, and the mother gets angry, and the way she says it with this kind of big sister love, and I was watching the scene unfold in the rehearsal room, and when it finished, we were all like me and Jimmy were like, oh my God, that was incredible. And I genuinely said to Princess Nokia after that, and then on the day we were shooting, I was like, we're going to shoot that scene that you just improvised. It's yours. You can run with it. Do whatever you want. We're just going to place you in that scene and have you both talk about that. And it's one of my favorite scenes, because it's like, she took the character, she took what I'd written, and she'd expanded it and made it into this bigger thing that was just on the page and just in my mind, and made it real and made it authentic to her and authentic to the way she saw her character. And that's like my favorite thing in film. It's like, you work with amazing creative people to create a bigger, better project, something better than what I could write on screen, something bigger and more elaborate and more authentic. That's when it really catches fire,
And authentic. So, Peter, tell us why authenticity is important in filmmaking.
Authenticity. I mean, when I go to the movie theater, I go to connect. I go to connect with other people, with ideas about life, and I think especially with this love story, because the idea was, I mean, I love Tarantino movies, but you don't necessarily go in thinking, well, like, if you look at Once Upon a Time, like Cliff Booth, that's a completely real scenario, It's like, but I love those movies, and I hope to make movies like that in the future. But with this movie, it was inspired by a true story, love story. And the critical thing for me was going, well, I want the audience to believe that this is real, believe in the characters, believe that it's possible. and therefore we have to at all stages be servicing that. That's kind of why the camera work is intentionally handheld, and it's also why when you're with in the film, you're with the characters all the time. There's only one or two shots when we're either not with Brendan or Ava. You know, we're always with one of them, because I wanted the audience to feel like I'm following these people. I'm like their friends next to them as their life unfolds. You know, I wanted it to feel like you were there and it was real, and that all goes towards servicing the idea of this love being possible and this love being real.
I love that. Peter, what is your advice for people who are coming to America to start their film career? And what are some things that they should keep doing over the course of the journey?
That's a great question. I've been thinking about this a lot recently. There's two big things from my perspective. There's two big things, which is that the first thing is, and I think this is true for most industries, but specifically in filmmaking, networking and meeting people. And networking is always such a weird, dirty word, because you always feel like going to a networking event feels so weird. You know, I'm just going to meet people and talk to people, but networking feels like you're trying to immediately get something out of it. But meeting people, talking to people, and making connections is one of the most important things. It was one of the reasons, looking back on it now, it was one of the reasons why I left that film school in the beginning, because they were teaching us the practicals of how to make films, but not teaching us how to actually get the films made. You know what I mean? It's like, I was kind of lucky in this, which is that I naturally want to meet and talk to as many people and connect in as many ways as possible. But even then, I had the thing I had to learn was to push myself to go to events, to go and meet people, to go to, so here's a great example. A friend of mine, Vera, set up a group called Now What, NYC, which is a kind of monthly roundtable discussion about the music industry, and it's for young music industry professionals. And I just went to the first one to support her, and now they've and I go to every single one. It's on every month. There's one on in a couple of days on December, I think 4th in New York, and I think they've created this huge, amazing organization with amazing contacts, and every time I go, I meet new people that I want to collaborate with. And I just went innocuously to support my friend. And now, say, for example, on December 4th, they've got, Wyclef Jean is coming in and talking about creativity and his creative team. And I'm like, this is the most incredible thing. And this just I know, right? And it just started out by, they could see how important meeting and connecting with people was. And then I was just going to every event I could. I'm a filmmaker going to a music industry event. Well, that wouldn't necessarily seem like the obvious thing, but I knew I had a connection in, and I went, and then from there I just kept going, because it's amazing to meet all different types of people, and you meet collaborators and artists and actors, and as I said, the creative industries merges and mixes so much that I never hold back from thinking, oh, well, this person isn't an actor or this person isn't a filmmaker, because the most important thing is the creativity. And so going and connecting and networking, as even if it's a dirty word, networking is one of the most important things. Angelfish wouldn't be made if I hadn't pushed beyond what I felt comfortable in doing, initially comfortable in doing, pushing beyond my comfort zone to meet and connect with people, because all those people that I met when I was just outside of my comfort zone are the people that helped put the film together and help make the film. I met one of our producers at Tribeca Film Festival just by reaching out before, as much as I could, Robin Rose Dinger, and she's one of the most talented writers and producers that I've met. And we chatted, we met kind of innocuously and chatted at Tribeca, and it took off from there. And I knew from the moment we met, I was like, well, I need to get this incredibly talented woman on my crew as quickly as possible. And I basically did that. So that's the first thing, networking. And then the second thing, one of the things I've learned in the last year or so has been there's so much collaboration, and I've talked about that like earlier on about how important the collaboration is. But there are also, especially if you're a director, or I suppose for a writer in the early stage of the process, having the belief in yourself and in your own instincts is like so critical. So critical, because everything comes back to you, and everyone, like as the director, everyone's kind of working towards your vision, hopefully, and having that belief in yourself, and like taking on as much advice from as much of the most talented people you can, and then like internalizing that as best you can, and then going with your instincts, trusting yourself, trusting how all of these things have affected you, and then trusting yourself is critical, because I think that's where it's in the hesitation that the mistakes are made. You know what I mean? It's like, so yeah, those are two big things: networking and trusting your instincts.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What a response. So I want you to tell us how people have responded to Angelfish so far, and what you want people to walk away from when they watch Angelfish.
So that's a great question. How people have been responding is genuinely the most like heartening, beautiful thing possible, because I basically spent like the last however long talking to you, talking about how authenticity and the purity of the film and the purity of the love story was critical for me. And genuinely, people come out of the movie and have been like DMing us on Instagram going, man, that was so beautiful and I felt so real. And I was like, well, you couldn't have said anything better. You know, you couldn't have given that a better review because you are basically telling us, exactly like saying to us that you took what was our primary aim for the film. And, so we're super happy about that. And also I think the way we represent the characters and the cultures in as close to a real way as possible, and the way we took an extra effort to do that. I mean, like I said, that really seems to be resonating with people, and that makes me so proud, because like I am an immigrant to this city, and telling a New York love story, I felt a huge responsibility both to the Irish American community and the Puerto Rican community in the Bronx to make that real, and I did my absolute utmost to bring in collaborators that I could kind of rely on to do that. So when I see people say from the Bronx or from different communities in New York that they felt like they were seeing themselves represented in a really honest way, that really heartens me. That's really beautiful. That's one of the things I'm super proud about. And then the big thing for people watching Angelfish, and what I'd love them to take away is the idea that love is like big love. Like, that's one of my favorite songs, one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs, Big Love. And I only just recently realized why. It's because the idea of big love. But the idea that big love is difficult and you have to work at it and it doesn't come easy. But that big love story, that movie love story where like things are difficult, but they have the potential to be the most incredible thing in your life. That big love is possible for anyone. I'm literally a testament to that. If a story like this wasn't possible in real life, then I wouldn't exist, because I'm the son of my parents who lived this story, you know? And so that's the thing. I want people to go in and be inspired by a sense of romanticism, because I think also I think the world needs a bit of that now, you know?
Peter Lee, everyone. Angelfish, thank you, Peter. It was terrific talking with you. I definitely would love to talk with you again. I mean, there's so much that could be discussed with you. Angelfish, thank you. I'm glad you're up for it as well. And Angelfish is out now, everyone. You got to check it out. Let everyone know how they can see it. Angelfish is also on social media. So, yeah, let people know, Peter.
So Angelfish we're on every sort of social media as Angelfish Movie. On Instagram primarily, that's where our home is. That's where you can see all the different trailers and interviews and like behind the scenes videos and everything. Our Angelfish Instagram is like our big daddy of the social media, and then we distribute everything else through our Twitter and our Facebook and our Snapchat and everything like that. So Angelfish at Angelfish Movie on Instagram and on Twitter and Facebook and everything. And you can watch Angelfish right now on VOD, on video on demand, basically anywhere that you can rent a movie online, Angelfish is. So iTunes, Amazon, Vudu, Fandango now. It's on YouTube if you Google YouTube and if you go on YouTube, if you Google YouTube, I feel like an old person. But if you go on, YouTube and search in their movies, you can rent it. I think it's like $3.99. So it's available to rent or buy right now on pretty much. Oh, it's on Google Play if you prefer Android. So it's like everywhere you could possibly rent a movie. All you guys do is search Angelfish and you will find it. And if you don't want to do that, go on our Instagram and click the link in our bio, and there's links to everywhere you can possibly see the movie right now. And we're super happy about that. And we're also really proud that we made this independent movie that's like finding its audience. And people, like, we see people post on, we basically said to all our followers, like, when you're watching this movie, like, send a picture of us, of your like watch party of you, like watching a scene or your favorite scene, and send us a picture and we'll post it on Instagram. And seeing these things flood in and then reposting them is so beautiful. Like, you see these people from all different parts of the United States and Canada, like, sending us these things of them enjoying and loving this movie. It's so amazing. So, that's another thing. Please do that. If you watch the movie, DM us or add it to your stories. We'll repost it, because we made the film for people, for like a wide audience, and for very, like, we made it for people to see and for people to fall in love with. And so when people are actually doing that, it means a lot. So, it's on iTunes and Amazon on VOD, and you can rent and buy it right this very second.
That's right, everybody. It's easily accessible. Check it out. Heartwarming story. New York love story that was actually filmed in New York. And what's not to love about that? No pun intended.
Amazing.
Thank you to all the listeners, and until next time, so booking cool.